highly deceptive twaddlespeak, says I.
Hi, my name's Moira, and we're recording now. Guys, we're actually recording. Get off of your phones, guys. Give you a pack of smokes if you start talking.
Fuck. Those darts. God damn it.
Wow, you guys really are glued to your phones right now. Shay's looking at me.
I'm getting my source material together here. Oh, a little bit.
Okay. All right, guys. Welcome to the 13th episode of the Meatheads podcast, where we are actually going to be talking about ghosts.
Yeah, I believe in ghosts.
We got fucking Shay with us. We're chilling. We're having some
Shay
wine.
Bowick.
Yeah, this is nice apple wine
Hey,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
glad you like it.
produced by Malcolm.
Hey, I made it myself.
You gotta get like a fucking pen name for like your winery, because it's not quite a thing yet. But we could be like, this is fucking
You know, I was thinking
X
about that.
wine.
You know how in Brentwood there's that little neighborhood called Moodyville?
Yeah.
I was thinking of just calling it Moody.
Moody. Yeah.
Moody wine.
Pretty good.
Because you drink enough of it, you get real moody.
It could be moody in a good way or a bad way. That's
Yeah.
the point, right?
I suppose so.
Yeah.
All right.
So like ghosts, I think. Well, we fucking went. Speaking of liquor and ghosts,
So,
when we went on the first ghost walk, because we went on some fucking ghost walks.
well, before
drunk.
we actually say that,
I was drunk.
let's have a straight up answer. Shay,
Yeah.
do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Explain yourself a bit, please.
That's something I've always believed in. I have one little experience in my life when I was a child. My parents were out, and it was just me, my brother, and sister, and our dog, Sadie. And we were watching TV, and Sadie went down into my parents' room and went into their closet and started barking frantically at something in the corner.
Jesus.
We went down there and investigated. There's absolutely nothing there, but she was just glued to that corner, and she was barking her head off, and it actually scared the shit out of us.
No
because
shit.
We were wondering, like, what is she barking at? Like, she sees something there that she doesn't like, but we obviously
Right.
couldn't see it. So
Yeah.
that
No.
was like the first time that I kind of felt something. And then, you know, if you like, you know anything about like ghosts, is that if you believe in that kind of thing, then you know animals have a sense
For
to something
sure.
that we can't see.
I think I think that actually happens. That's like fairly common, right? Where animals will just be super fucking freaked out by something. And it's fucking like that makes sense, right? They've got crazy senses. And like sometimes like fucking humans pick that shit up, but it makes sense that animals would be like vibing, right?
Yeah.
It's fucking badass.
So, Justin, do you believe in ghosts?
See, I'm like on the edge about it, where I'm like I want to be just like, you know, there's obviously we can't like prove it, just like we can't prove aliens, but or you know, but it's or like any kind of supernatural thing. But I think it's one of those things where there's enough people. I've never had an experience, unfortunately, because I'm like bringing on fucking ghosts. I'd love to like have a showdown with the fucking ghosts. Like if I you know. It'd be super scary. I feel like especially if you're in a fucking house. But like if you saw a ghost and like you have these stories about people seeing ghosts, I'd like to like not let it leave kind of thing.
You
But
wanna
sometimes it
interact with
is a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they are real, actually that's weird. Like if they are real, like can we interact with them, or are they just like are they like I don't think they're aware in the sense like normal things are. They because you know some of the theories of ghosts is that they're like, you know, there's an area that is haunted by a ghost, and that ghost is there because something, you know, traumatic happened, and they're stuck in that space, sort of. So it's kind of just this reoccurring thing that happens over and over. But it's fucking crazy. I think it's mind blowing. I think when you've got enough people that have crazy experiences and seeing things, you know, and there's some weird footage online, which is like some of it you could say is authentic, some of it we know isn't, but some of it looks to be authentic. And it starts to pile up. It starts to get really interesting. I'm just like, we should have a government ghost program that's fucking hunting these things.
Oh, well,
Like,
if you
set up
believe
more-
some conspiracy theorists, I don't doubt that somebody's thinking that the Americans have some,
Right.
I don't know, Men in Black shit.
Yeah.
Except that's for
Yeah,
aliens.
no, the Men in Black are fucking real.
Are they?
No, I don't know. That's
Maybe.
That's another thing. That's another thing, kind of tied in with UFOs and ghosts. Was obviously with the UFO thing, but people have had experiences where they've had either they could be like government workers that are trippy as fuck, or people in a cult or whatever. But people have had crazy experiences with Men in Black. Or at least that's what they claim, right? I can't fucking verify it.
Maybe
but.
it's just Slender Man.
Exactly. It's weird, and some of the stories are fucking scary. Like a guy comes up, he's got no hair at all, and they've got their lips are like that looks like fake lips, but they're like pink. It looks like it's lipstick. It's like an alien is like lips have color, and then they put this artificial color on, and they just like pretty much look like fucking Voldemort, and they're just classic Men in Black, just a plain black suit, and they come up to the guy's house and tell him to stop like investigating UFOs because he was writing a book and investigating things and shit like that. Good story. Don't know if the story's real, but then you don't know if the guy's making this shit up or whatever. But
Yeah.
but once you have enough credible people that are like, some of them are like, I am fucking convinced. I'll put my reputation and things on the line. Some of these are like, people that have, just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're some kind of authority, but they put that on the line when they put this shit out there.
Totally.
It's pretty trippy.
So my own perspective then, if I may, is that there are a lot of experiences out there, like you say, which and some documented phenomenon, which can't necessarily be discounted as just totally fake, but at the same time, I wouldn't,
They're
being,
not
being a
conclusive.
skeptic, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
they're conclusive or,
Right.
or concrete evidence of the existence of ghosts or anything.
Right.
And it's difficult to just throw them out completely because there's so many of them, right?
Right,
Some of
yeah.
them have to be,
Right.
to a certain extent, legitimate.
Right.
And then I have my own one experience with something that I can't quite explain. I haven't told a lot of people about this, but basically it goes, I think I was probably 5 years old, and I was at my parents' old farm, and my grandfather, my opa, had just recently passed away, and so I was sleeping in bed, and I was having a dream about him. It was one of those dreams where you kind of just remember things, and I don't remember much about my opa other than, their old house, the house that he had with my Omi, and hanging around there in their backyard, and they had a nice little pool house there. And I do remember definitely though that he used to take me to the grocery store at times, and he'd be holding my hand, just this tiny little kid, and he's this old man. He'd be holding my hand, and we'd just get some of the finest sausages that we could.
Fuck yeah.
And we'd share them and enjoy them together, and that was basically our bonding time. Now, he died when I was 4 and a bit. My sister was only 6 or 7 months old, so I want to say it was middle of 1997. And so, yeah, I was 5 years old then, so it was probably about 98 when I had this dream. Just remembering open. I wake up in the middle of the night. I don't really know what's going on. It's pitch black out. But I feel this hand on my shoulder. And, at first I'm thinking, oh, maybe mom or dad's sitting there because I'm having this weird dream. Maybe I was talking in my sleep and they're just coming to comfort me. So I look around. There's nobody there. Nobody there at all. And I still feel this hand on my shoulder. And for some reason, I have nothing to support my feeling here. But for some reason, I just had this certainty that it was Opa with his hand on my shoulder. I don't know. It's one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. I've never had it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what to make of it.
Right.
But if you believe such things, and I'm not sure I do, but if you believe such things, then you might consider it to have been my Opa's ghost sitting there just with his hand on my shoulder. And maybe that's why I was dreaming about him.
Right.
Right.
It's like, yeah, when you think about it, there's classic stories like that when people like just pass away, and then they come and like visit people in their family. They see someone that look, or they'll see them and it looks exactly like them, kind of thing. It's like, that's fucking trippy.
Yeah. And I remember
Super trippy.
my sister. I'm not sure if I got the story completely correct, but it was in the same house. Apparently, she woke up one night to see just the top half of somebody, like a torso sort of apparition, walking through her room and through the wall to the outside. And I don't really know anything else about that. I just remember that she used to talk about that a bit.
That's fucked.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Super trippy.
That's metal as fuck.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I don't know.
yeah.
Like it was about the same time because we only lived in that house for a couple of years. And yeah. But so when it comes to ghosts, then like the concept of ghosts, I have some problems with it.
For sure.
One is one of the laws of thermodynamics is in that energy cannot be either created or destroyed, right? And that energy has to be, well, it may not be thermodynamics, a little rusty on it, but energy has to be bound within matter, unless it's just light. And if it's just light, it's not gonna have shape. It's just gonna be passing through, right?
Yeah, it's like if it's exerting any energy, it has to have like a source of energy.
Yeah, it has to have some
unless
source.
it's just like dust floating around in the shape of a person, but it's
But
not,
even
right?
then,
but it has
even
like
then it has a source, and that source is wind
it's like
or a gust or
fucking-
whatever.
That's
So-
the thing. It's like it's almost with a lot of these things, like some of the theories on UFOs, same idea. Is that these things are like from a different fucking dimension, like they're coming through on some other level.
So to expand on my qualm here, when it comes to ghosts, there has to be some source of energy. But if it's not readily apparent, if there's no solid mass, then how can there be a source of light? And usually when it comes to apparitions, people say is like this sort of pale, think of a ghost. It's like a pale see-through person.
It's transparent.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
And so I'm just thinking, like, how is that physically possible?
Right.
And so then, granted, when it comes to other things like poltergeists, like Justin and I's mutual friend Levi, he's got the story of.
It's a classic.
You know the story better than I do.
Yeah, he was basically just hanging out watching TV, sitting there
with his mom too. So there's the two of them.
His mom was hanging out, and she left to go to the kitchen, I believe, she came and she left and came back. Anyways, there's a shelf of CDs sitting there. I think facing him, so he's looking, and one of the CDs just goes flying off, and I think it like hit her, and she's like, "What the fuck, did you throw that?" kind of thing, and he's like, no, what the fuck?" But they sat down, and they're like a couple minutes later, another CD just like flew off, shot into the middle of the fucking room, and they're just sitting there like there's nothing, That's another one, like with that story right there tells me that like the laws of physics are being fucking broken.
Yeah, something's weird.
Something is fucking weird. Like things like just basic Newtonian physics, like things
For
don't
a CD to
things
fly off
don't
the
just
shelf,
move.
something had to have pushed it.
Something had to push it. It's like, but then why would that could be, some ghosts they manifest first as children, or like with hauntings, a lot of them, or demons especially, the idea is that they'll first appear as a child to
With
make us
childish
kind
mentality?
of comfortable. Yeah, because they'll do things that are childish, like they'll play with toys or they'll move something. But and the idea is that it's trying to make you think that it's not threatening or anything.
Yeah.
It's just a little child. Yeah. And then as time goes on, the haunting gets worse and worse. Then the characteristics get more and more it gets to a point there's actual steps to it, sort of, or they kind of happen, or they'll happen in somewhat of a sequence, and then they get more and more violent and terrifying, and it's basically the fucking devil. Is just, but like
Some sort of demons fucking with you.
it's kind of the idea. Like with that one, it makes me think it could like that's what a kid would do. They'd grab the CD and throw it off the shelf and fuck around,
Throwing like a little tantrum sort
and
of
they
thing.
did to it exactly, yeah. But it's just bizarre. Like the UFO that I saw, which we talked about on a few episodes back. We talked about UFOs and shit. The motion of the UFO, like the way it moved, just breaks the laws of physics as I know them about how objects move around. It's super common with a lot of these things. There's like they talk about strangeness, and it's used with UFOs too. But I think same with ghosts. It's just like things are off, like things happen that shouldn't happen. It's fucking weird. Like one of them is like time will get messed with. Like you'll have an experience, and then you feel like it just happens for a couple of minutes, but all of a sudden you look and it's been like 4 hours. And you like George St. Pierre, when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about that. He thought aliens were fucking with him because he'd be driving and all of a sudden it's like 2 hours later. And
time just
no idea.
Disappeared.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's so mind blowing. Or is that just a huge brain fart? Like is that just?
I mean, I don't mean to disrespect the guy, but he has been hit in the head a whole bunch of times.
Totally, and that's for sure. And stress apparently can make things like that kind of happen, where you're stressed and a lot of things going on. But children aren't stressed and they see fucking ghosts, so
yep.
Well,
they could be stressed.
They could be stressed.
Yeah,
but,
they could be.
But that's actually true. Like
I just had an idea about how these experiences could be plausible, and I don't know too much about the theoretical physics of alternate dimensions or other universes within the multiverse. But I remember reading somewhere that there's a theory out there that stipulates that there's our universe and there's other universes around us, right? In the multi-universe theory. And that
which is fucking true, by the way.
that there's one or maybe more which are kind of not connected to ours, but kind of overlapping.
They overlap, yeah.
And
it's like a bubble.
Since they're different universes and they have different physics, they can't really be in the same place.
Right.
Like
there's a question: what if they melded? And then what would happen to the laws of physics?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you have like these equations coming into these equations.
Are you saying they can't meld, or like
that they can't really interact?
No, I think that's true.
They could cross over though for brief periods.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering then.
Right.
Because that's what I think. Like, have you ever had deja vu? Everyone's had deja vu.
Yeah.
And one of the theories about deja vu is that that's not you, but that's another form of you in another universe, and you're connected just for a brief second, and you feel that.
That's like some quantum mechanics.
And that's where like your universe and the other universe are kind of crossing over, just briefly, and then it's gone.
That's fucking.
Because
that's really intense.
Like being like this, that feeling of deja vu is always blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's so strange.
It's like I know, like so many times of like I know that I went through this. Like I know that I've done this before, but I hadn't.
For sure. The trippy one I've heard about is people that have dreams of something happening, like something very. It's like a weird dream. It's not just I went to the store. Like of course you're gonna go to the store one day.
Vivid dreams, and they come real the next day.
Exactly. Like not even the next day, but like like in the future, whatever. Like it could, but. Like it just happens. Like what the fuck is up?
I've had that before.
That's so weird.
It's extraordinarily odd.
Like is that just how fucking smart the brain is that it can like predict what will happen?
I have no idea. I just remember when I was at Brentwood Elementary, I had a dream about something on the playground happening.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, boom, that happened.
Right.
Now this could be my interpretation of how my dream was.
Yeah.
How it went, being affected by the event on the field, and my brain making connections and saying, I predicted this. It could be total bullshit.
Yeah.
But that is my impression, my honest impression.
I think it might have been grade 5 or 6, but I forget who the person was. It was just some random person, and I was like, I bet I could guess what your middle name is. And they're like, and then I just said a random fucking name, literally a random name. It was kind of just like a Andrew, you know. I think it might have been something like that. And he was just like, how the fuck do you know my middle name? And I was like, I don't. Like, it was just a lucky guess, but he was like, mind was blown. And I was like, how the fuck did I get that right? Like, it was hilarious. But like, you know, like psychics
Now the
and
skeptic
shit.
in me says, lucky coincidence.
That's fucking. It was a pretty common name and like whatever, but still, I was
So-
like, God damn.
To go back to the multiverse idea, then basically what I'm wondering is if they somehow, like if there's a puncture in the fabric, the boundaries of time space between each universe,
Yeah.
and they somehow connect briefly. Maybe there's some sort of force exerted in one universe, and that affects ours.
Exactly.
I
I have no
yeah.
idea if that's plausible.
One of the
No.
There are people way smarter than I am who could quite plausibly like, Malcolm, you are so full of shit. It's not
Yeah.
even funny.
I-
But
the funny thing is, I think some of those professors and shit in physics, they get people asking these questions of, we've thought about it. No, it's not fucking right. Like, there's something wrong. But like, one of
Yeah.
the things I've thought of for ghosts and things like that is maybe it's like some exotic particle physics where maybe that's, you know, it's
the
like an
Higgs
exotic.
boson's fucking with our lives.
Yeah, like it's a very
probably
exotic
not,
particle that fucking. But then what? The thing is weird. It's like, okay, why is it that everyone? It's like everyone sees humans. Okay, well, why the fuck would the exotic particles look like manifest as a human? They'd come as like a little rock. You know, they'd be like a normal thing in the universe. Why does it take the shape of a fucking person? Like that's which make one of the other theories. I think that it might be like psychological, where it's
well, it could be anthropomorphism, right?
right.
You know,
But-
people have a
yeah, that's
tendency
very
to
true.
place human traits upon inanimate objects just to
Yeah.
Right.
comfort themselves or
Right.
try to understand things.
Right.
You know, it's like the ancient Greeks saying, "Oh, Zeus is throwing lightning."
Yeah.
Well, that was just them trying to understand
right.
the process of
Yeah.
lightning.
Yeah.
But yeah,
totally.
like what? Because yeah, one of the things I think is maybe it's like it's our brain fucking with us. Like it's almost like schizophrenia. You can like your brain. We know that your brain can make you see things that aren't there, right? Like that's and then
Anybody
but then
who's had mushrooms or acid will tell
that's
you
true.
that, yeah.
That's true.
It's not
But
the
I mean,
mushrooms or acid
but-
which is causing that. It's your brain reacting to that and making that happen.
Right. But I mean, the thing is, like with like say like a ghost experience, that is like it's next level. You're like say there's a person. I forget. It was Carrie that we had on, and he said that
yeah,
he
Carrie
saw
Hooper, yep.
he saw just like there's something sitting there in this chair in his house, and it wasn't anybody.
Oh.
And like there's just a thing sitting in the chair. But like okay, so when you see a
Actually,
ghost,
yeah.
say like it's a human, like it is a human form. But maybe that's like I wonder if people with like say schizophrenia, or it's like a very rare form of something like schizophrenia where your brain is like conjuring up the image of another human.
Yeah.
But why another human? Why, like, you know?
And actually, now that I think about it, so episode 11 of the Meatheads podcast is the one that we did with Carrie.
Yeah.
And he had a really fucking good ghost story.
Yeah, I think it was pretty early in
was-
the episode.
yeah.
We talked about shit.
Probably
We talked about
11.1 or
UFOs and
something.
shit. And
Well, we were
and
talking about
ghosts.
Alex Jones mostly,
Right,
even
right.
though we were actually it
Oh,
was
yeah.
supposed to be about
I feel
Alex
like-
Jones, but we were
I
talking
feel
about
like
Donald Trump a
I
lot.
think that we talk about UFOs every episode, even though it's been like one episode. So I think I just say every episode is about UFOs.
Yeah, maybe.
In the end,
It's
but,
all
like,
connected, man.
it's all fucking goes back to UFOs.
But yeah, I think if I
Men in
remember
Black.
correctly, Carrie's story was that he and a friend were doing something in their kitchen, and one guy went to the bathroom and came back looking all shaken, and then Carrie goes to the bathroom himself, and he's walking by, and all of a sudden all the taps turn on,
right.
and he has no idea why. And so he's like, he turns them all off, and he gets the fuck out of there because
Yeah.
he's super sketched out. And so he sits down, and they're both looking at each other, and they realize that they're both really scared. And one of them says, like, "Did you see?" I don't remember if I'm getting this right, but
They
they
didn't
both-
see it at the same time, but they both were like, "Did you fucking see
yeah,
something?"
did you
Yeah.
see the fucking taps turn on?
And,
they
and there's
both
a
said that
dude,
they
the
did.
dude sitting in the fucking chair, right?
Oh yeah,
And it was both. I think like there was some trippy
they
shit.
yeah,
What
there's
happened?
just some really weird shit.
It was like the taps came on, but then they both saw like a shape of a person like sitting in a chair in whatever room, and because they had been hanging out, and then they both saw it like not at the same time and not together, but then afterwards they're both like kind of freaked out, and they're basically like, did you see what I fucking saw?
They independently agreed that they saw something.
Right. And it wasn't even, it might have been like after a while, I'm pretty sure he said it. Like it wasn't the same night. It was like after a while, they're like, maybe. Do you fucking, but that's a weird one for me. Like when these stories, they have independent people all reporting the same thing. Like they're not two friends say they saw this, but it's like different people at different times that have no clue about each other has seen something similar, and
that's what I find to be most important, because when it's two people who know each other, like say you
that rules out the whole brain thing.
Yeah, like say we were sitting out in my front yard right now, and you said you saw some weird thing. There's a very likely possibility that subconsciously I would agree with you just because I want to agree with you, because you're my friend, just because.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
But then two strangers who have never talked to each other.
Right.
And they corroborate their testimony.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah, I was talking to Jane from fucking
Jane Elman,
UVic Camos and shit.
No, not Jane. Jane.
Jane, is it Carson? I think it's Carson, right?
Yeah, on Facebook she's Jane to Canada or something.
Yeah.
Jane Elman was my old boss.
Jane's a fucking champ. She I was talking to her about UFOs, and she's into them and shit, obviously, and because they're fucking real. And I told her like about the UFO that I saw, and she was saying that she's seen a couple UFOs. She saw one with her dad, and same thing, like they're both together, just standing there watching this fucking crazy thing float around. And when that happens, it like I totally forgot that, but that completely rules out like I'm having this crazy personal brain fart that's making me see some trippy shit, because everyone could see. Like the UFO that I saw, like I don't think it was just me that could see it. If other people looked up, they would have seen the same shit. Like mass sightings happen, but it seems like those things, it's rare with ghosts, probably because UFOs happen in the sky, so a ton of people can see it. But
I think ghosts are also an intensely personal experience.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But it's true that groups like hauntings will happen in a household, and the whole family kind of goes through it.
Yeah, that reminds me of another story that I have. I'm not sure if it's really anything to do with ghosts at all. But basically my mom and my stepdad and my sister and we were sitting in the living room of our own townhouse over on Quail Ridge, actually, just watching something on the television, and all of a sudden I hear this crash in the kitchen. So I walk over there and I find my school binder just laying on the floor, all its contents thrown all over the kitchen. And, I had definitely put it on the counter, zipped up a couple hours before. And so it was kind of like a huge what the fuck moment, because everybody in the house was sitting in the same room. Yeah. Nobody went near it. And we all saw it we all heard it happen.
Yeah.
And we all saw the evidence. Yeah. And it was just like
super weird.
Yeah. And that was the only thing that happened in that house. So I don't know. Maybe I set it like a couple inches away from the edge of the counter, and we had a micro tremor earthquakes, and it just happened to fall off the counter. I don't know.
It's unlikely, right?
It's
so is a ghost pushing it off, right?
It's just as unlikely as ghosts. Yeah. It's like it's just a huge what the fuck.
Yeah. For sure. It's just like a fucking head scratcher. It's so strange.
But we all experienced that happening.
Right.
So
that's why I want to like have cameras just set up in my house, every single room, constantly. I don't give a fuck about your privacy. We're gonna find these ghosts. Like honestly, because if you had a fucking camera rolling, you could see like, was it balancing on something that had a little slope on it, or like was it just sitting there and all of a sudden you just watch it get fucking flown off? Not like a little fall, but like I'd fucking.
I can't help but wonder if that would be so much more creepy than it would be satisfying.
It would be so creepy.
You have evidence that some shit's going on.
No, I know. That makes it creepier for sure. But
at least if you have no evidence, you can be in denial and be like,
it's nothing. It's just
nothing to worry about.
Totally. Like having that.
It's just the wind.
For sure. Yeah, somebody left a window open.
Yeah. Okay. So the ghost box we went on.
Yeah. What's it called? What's the company that put them on?
So the company it's in Victoria, downtown Victoria. They do it. I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights.
Maybe I think it's every night of the week.
They do it every night.
They
of
go
the week,
hard.
Oh fuck yeah!
They do two a day. I think.
Sweet.
It's different each night.
So the company itself is called Discover the Past, and they do historical tours around Victoria. But in particular, they have this one. They're called ghostly walks.
Yeah.
And so they do one at 7 p.m. and one at 9:30 p.m. and they're an hour and a half walks, and they vary each time. So the first one that we went on was it started at the Empress, and then we went up through Government Street to Bastion Square.
Yeah.
That one was fun. Do you guys remember the stories there?
It's good shit. A little bit.
What do you remember? Like, so we started at the Empress.
They got fucking Rogers chocolates. I forget the other ones.
Honestly, do you remember the one at the Empress?
Yeah, a little bit. They're the very top floor, the 7th floor. There's an elevator that went to the 6th, and then the 7th. They had to have another elevator.
Yeah.
But then the one that went to the 7th was built later and took out a room, right?
Yep.
And then the old lady up there, this fucking ghost, she had a room fucking taken away, and she just wanders around looking for a room. And, like, people get woken up when she asks for where the elevator now is. She'll ask where I can't find my room
because she died in that room.
Yeah.
The story goes that she died in that room, and people often have this knocking on their door, so they go and answer, and it's just a sweet old lady asking if she can help them find her room, and they go along and they find where the room should be. You know, say it's like room 67 or something. I don't know. So they find room 66 and they find room 68, but where room 67 should be, and I don't know if this is the actual number of the room or not.
No.
There's just an elevator door.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that where the room that the lady died in was turned into an elevator. And so now she doesn't have a room to go to anymore. So she just wanders around, you know, trying to find a room, and she can never find it.
Yeah.
And apparently, even when the room was a room before it was an elevator, people would never stay a whole night there because they'd experience, weird things like the taps turning on or the sheets flying off.
Oh, right. Classic.
Yeah, you know, somebody, like a cold presence crawling into bed with them or something.
Yeah.
And this is all stories from the ghost tour guide.
Right.
And, you know, okay, so they didn't ever... What I liked about the ghost tours is they never pushed the idea of ghosts, but they gave honest accounts of documented testimonies.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's basically like, look at all these fucking stories. These are all people... And that's a weird one when you've got a building like that. Like the Empress is allegedly extremely haunted, right? It's got tons of ghosts in it. It's an old-ass building. You know, the fucking guy that built it got his head smashed in with a hammer. It's pretty metal. But when you've got all these... Okay, all the people coming and staying at the Empress, they're not doing it to look for ghosts. But when you've got all these people that are staying there fucking complaining because shit's going on, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not a shitty building. Like, what...
No.
You know? It's like they're nice taps, I'm pretty sure, right? Like, let's fucking... I don't understand. It's crazy.
Yeah. And we should also note that the tour guides, they're all historians.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's like a big plus. You
Yeah.
know? They're not just MUFON members or
No.
like crazy
MUFON members?
UFO fucking. They're not like crazy. Like, you know, these are like they all do some cool shit. They hang out in like archives and fucking.
They really they know their stories.
They
For
do
sure.
the research, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So then the next story on that tour is the Rogers chocolates. You remember that one, Shay?
The one where basically the child was always waiting for the parents.
Right.
Yeah. So I think the story
child
goes
died young.
Yeah, so the story goes that the original owners of Rogers Chocolates, they worked way too much. And
They're the Elon Musk type.
Yeah, they neglected their child.
Yeah.
They would sleep in Rogers Chocolates.
Yeah, in the
building.
office there. Yeah.
Yeah, and their child would be at home and just grew up a troubled life because, you know, was ignored. The kid, I don't remember his name, was ignored by his parents. He eventually died from some sort of accident.
Didn't he fucking blew his like hand up or something, and then he was all depressed and killed himself, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Because he would like throw little dynamite things at people, and there's a law on the books in Victoria that says he's not allowed to throw fucking explosives.
Yeah. He's still
it's still on the books.
He's been dead for over 100 years, but he's still not allowed to get onto the public transit system.
Yeah, I fucking love it. There's actually like funny, unique laws like that. There's, like no riding your horse on a Sunday in Victoria or something. You know, it's stupid shit having to do with your horse. Or that's across Canada, but you know.
And so apparently there was in Rogers Chocolates, it's gone through successive owners, and they would there'd be a good cleaning spree amongst the staff, and then they come in the next day and they find this handprint on the really high up on some huge mirror, and the managers eventually just got really fed up with it, so they had everybody on the staff compare hands, and after that they realized, holy shit, this is a child's hand and it's missing a few fingers, which is exactly why the kid of the original owner killed himself, because he blew up his hand and he lost a couple of fingers. Yeah. And he couldn't use his hand
with that one
anymore.
Like, I wonder,
got super depressed.
Like,
and so it
set up the cameras. Set up the fucking cameras.
Set up the fucking cameras.
Get them.
But basically the idea was that the kid is still there hanging out with his dead parents.
Yeah.
And then they're all a ghostly family. And he keeps just putting his handprint on the mirror.
And it's like 16 feet high too. Like it's something that's not easy for anyone to just go do.
Yeah, that's so strange. And like apparently people that work in there, it's like it's got a weird vibe a little bit. Yep. They said like when they were on the tour that the chocolate on the display started vibrating and fell off the fucking shelf.
Yeah,
or it was moving along, and apparently there was this one guy who was desperately trying to find the string. That the person was moving it with, like the guide was moving it with.
No, they don't fuck around. Like all they do is stand there and tell you stories and walk around and go to the sites where it is, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's like no frills or anything. It's just,
it's no theatrics. Yeah. It's just like stories. The first lady was stories. Like they get really into the stories, but like there's no fuckery. Yeah. Apparently though, the owner will jump out and fuck around with people sometimes, occasionally probably, but
what was the next one? Oh,
the one with
the poet Robert Service. Yeah. So
Bart and Banker.
Yeah. So apparently he was a poet. Oh no, sorry. Fuck. Before he was a poet in the Yukon, he was a banker at the what is now the Bart and Banker pub in Victoria, but it used to be CIBC, and he'd work in there. And there's this one story where he wrote it down eventually in later years, where he was walking by the morgue, which happened to be right next to the bank.
It's where he Lush is now, right? Which is hilarious. They sell like,
what's the place called?
Lush. It's like fucking. It's like cosmetics and
natural
shit.
Makeup and soap products and stuff.
Yeah. So that building
smells really good in there, but it used to just be full of dead bodies.
Yeah.
It's ironic.
Crazy.
So the one day, so he used to never walk by it because he's super superstitious, and but there was this one day, it was just super stormy out, where he walks past it and he sees a light inside, and he's super fucking curious because he's like, why are there a whole bunch of people in there when the morgue's supposed to be closed? He's wondering if there's a robbery going on, because the classic robbery technique at the time is to smash through the walls next to the bank in order to get into the safe. So he goes in there and then he sees a bunch of people and they grab him, but then he realizes, holy shit, all these people are bringing bodies in from the out. Like there's so many dead bodies around.
Right?
Yeah, because a ship sunk in the storm, which is raging outside, and all these bodies washed ashore, and so people are just bringing them in, and that's why all those people are inside there. Because there's dozens of dead bodies around, and so Robert Service just freaked the living shit out. He ran back outside and ran up to his room above the bank, and he was just leaning against the window, panting. Now he went off and he died. Like he went to the Yukon, became a famous poet there, and then he moved to France, where he eventually died decades later. Now, 50 years later, there's this one lady living across the street, and apparently there's like police records of her calling the police and saying there's a man staring at me from across the street. And then whenever the police came, they would inspect it. There would be no one around. And they go up above the Barden Banker, and they'd find this empty attic, and it's just dust.
It's been closed off for like 10 years.
Dust, and there's nobody around. Nobody's been there in decades. And but you keep persisting, and eventually they figured it out that it was, people who pieced this all together figured out it's the ghost of Robert Service.
Residual haunting.
Yeah, coming
It's
back
fucking
to
metal.
one of his most traumatic experiences.
Right.
That's the story.
That's a residual haunting, right? Where it's a traumatic thing happens in that space, so it's like the energy, according to the theory, will stay in the space and it'll reoccur.
Now the problem I have with that, where the fuck is that energy coming from? How is it being stored?
Exactly. But then the thing is, this bitch, this fine, respectable lady, she had no fucking clue that this guy was up on this balcony. Like all she's doing is sitting in her room. She sees this fucking guy staring at her, and apparently this happens multiple times. And
it should probably be mentioned that he wasn't staring at her. He was just staring across the street, which happened to be right at her balcony.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that, it's another one of those things. Is it just a coincidence? Like, she didn't know about all of this, and she didn't piece the story together in her own benefit. And some of these people that it happens to, they don't want people to know about it. Like, people that have these crazy experiences sometimes, they just they get the story out there, but they don't want to become famous. They're not trying to make money.
They don't want to be like that stereotype, like crazy person.
Yeah. That's what I feel like when I talk about UFOs. Like, I don't want to fucking be this crazy person, but I saw a fucking UFO. Like, it blows my mind.
For me, it's just like, when it comes to like UFOs and shit, like, how could there not be UFOs? Like, how could there not be extraterrestrial beings out there? Like, the universe is so huge.
Right. It's fucking next level.
I don't think that we're like, okay, we're unique in a sense, but I don't think we're so unique that we're the only like intelligent life forms in the universe.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's silly to assume that that we're just like this, because Earth is basically just common goop. Yeah. Like, there's nothing unique about all the elements on Earth. It's very common, and it's just the formula of the goop.
It just came together so perfectly for life to thrive.
And there's so many. The more we look into space, the more we find more viable places for life to live. It's like with the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, we used to think, a little bit. We used to think that the moons of Saturn and Jupiter would just be shitty little barren rocks. These things have fucking ice geysers and fucking lakes of methane and things on them. They have active surfaces, like geological surfaces. They got shit going on. It makes it that much more plausible that life's fucking out there.
Did you see that they just they think that they've confirmed that there's like a 12 square miles formation of like water, like an underground lake.
Right. Yeah, liquid water on Mars.
Regions in Mars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking cool.
Like, amazing.
They know where it is. They just have to. They might be able to soon send a robot to see what's going on in there. Take a sample.
Yeah, sorry, just in case anybody didn't hear me yelling in the background, I said that scientists found a huge, there's a liquid water lake on Mars underneath the polar ice cap. Yeah, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's next level.
Okay, I just have to say that space blows my mind.
Oh yeah,
like when you think about like all those stars out there and like how long it took that light to come here.
Right. Like, you're looking back in time when you see stars.
So far back in time.
Yeah. Oh, some of them for sure.
Like, some of those stars are not there anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
which is crazy.
The closest star to us took the light from it a few years to get here, and that's the closest one.
From our sun it's 8 minutes.
Yeah. And
then
it's like, holy shit.
I think, what is it, Sirius, which is the next closest? It's a couple light years away.
Yeah, it's something crazy like that. It's a few light years, but you know, our own galaxy is about 100,000. Well, the average galaxy is about 100,000 light years across. So 100,000 years for light to even get from one side of a galaxy to the next. And it's just so mind blowing. And that's just one galaxy, you know. It's fucking nuts. And the space between galaxies is about, it's like 10 of those, right? It's god damn.
All right, so that's the end of the first part of this episode. When we get back, we're going to talk about the next 2 stories on, I think it's 2 stories. No, it's 2 or 3.
We got a few
2 stories about this first ghost walk that we went on. And then there's going to be the second ghost walk, which
and
we're
going
to the third part already, but who knows? We'll figure it out when we get to it.
We're probably going to smoke some meth, and then I'm going to throw in some bonus fucking, some bonus alien
some huge
fucking
jankum fest
episode.
over here.
Yeah, totally.
If you don't know what jankum is, look it up and be horrified.
Look it up, kids. Use the Google.